princely, yeah, the crown goes to me. The Fresh Prince, look at how I get jazzy. First of his name, Leone will reign. I'm next up, so go ahead and crown E. Now I know that you have heard, but I'm the young David, giant killer, playing at the demons of my enemies. Caliata, Italy, think of me for centuries. They gon' sing my songs out in the streets.
This might be the last song in this half of the video. I might break this into 2 parts and have the next 3 songs in the next part, but we'll see. This is gonna be long. Okay, you've been warned. Maybe take a pee break or something. I don't know. Background info. This is a visualizer for the 3rd single. Yeah, okay. It threw me off. It's the 3rd single, but it's the 2nd song on the EP. This is a visualizer for the 3rd single. Off my forthcoming self-produced debut EP, Amari Vol I. Amari, which you have clearly listened to or you wouldn't be watching this video. This project is a concept album with each song based on a different meaning of my name, which I already told you. In this case, Arabic meaning moon. As a result, this song is about the various forms of darkness that surround me, like the nights, and how I choose to shine in spite of that, like the moon. So there's like a dichotomy in the song of dark topics, and then also me just kind of like being braggadocious and stuff. And that's the metaphoric moonlight. The concept of ambition is used a lot in this song to one, just let you into my brain, but 2, to paint that metaphoric moonlight. But I also like literally spell it out at one point in the song. So I don't know how metaphorical it is if you just tell people what the song is about, but that's also what I'm doing now. So let's continue. Okay, from a beat perspective, this is my take on a slasher movie theme song. So it's in a way an ode to songs like Michael Myers' theme. The lead melody of the beat is mostly a synth key progression that sometimes plays at full speed, representing the day. Other times it plays at half speed, representing the night. And sometimes both play at the same time, like the full speed and the half speed are playing simultaneously, representing twilight. This is actually the 5th version of this beat, which means that I made the beat, it was done, and then I came back and I changed it. Then I changed it again. It's like if you've ever written a book or something, like multiple drafts, this is the 5th draft of the music part of the song. And I originally started working on it in 2017. That's how long I've been planning all this out. This is just the start of a very, very long series of projects, which I have literally been working on for like 7-8 years. So yeah. Hopefully you stick around for all that. And the working name for it back then was Heartbreaks and Haunted Houses. I'm only telling you that because I thought it was awesome. I really like that name. It just doesn't fit the concept as like just titling it Red Moon, but Heartbreaks and Haunted Houses. Great name. The beat includes campfire crackles and crickets, both of which make me think of nighttime, growls and howls, matching the horror vibe, and tying into certain references in the lyrics, but more on that in a second, and dogs barking, because I wanted to use the idiom of barking at the moon somewhere in the song, but I couldn't figure out where to put it lyrically, so I just embedded it into the fabric of the music. The dog part also relates to cops, a big topic in this song, via canine units. It also just made more sense back when, for those of you who've been watching my channel for a long time, I used to have wolf theme branding instead of lion theme branding. And so this song came to be like back then. And so it made a lot of sense back then. But whatever, that's not the point. The point is we released it now and we're moving forward. So I expect this song is going to be the most polarizing song on the project, but I like it a lot. I think that this is my favorite song on the project, but I'm not 100% sure. It's definitely lyrically my favorite song on the project. I don't know about the beat though. I'm kind of over the beat at this point. It's been years, but I like it a lot because it has the most distinct energy and is quite easily the most lyrically complex song on the project, with a variety of different references, double and triple entendres, and general wordplay sprinkled throughout. I think that my biggest skill as a musician is as a songwriter. I wanted this song to demonstrate that to an extent. So if it didn't, give me an hour to tell you why this song kicks ass lyrically. Okay, the visuals. The visualizer video is really cool and is my favorite because it's actually awesome. Is my favorite because it visually has quite a few things that are referenced in the song. A red moon, obviously, it's in the back. Bats flying around in the sky, i.e. Dracula and Bruce Wayne, who is Batman. A campfire in front of a grave, which connects both to the beat's campfire crackles, but also lines about fire, burn the judgment, and burning bridges, and scorched earth. And then the grave part obviously relates to lines like graveyard date under the moonlight, and the bit that I say in the intro about this song being a therapy session for me, but specifically at the funeral of my enemies. If you look closely, you can also see a zombie foot sticking out of the ground in the bottom left corner. It's like where the progress bar starts to come out. Like right above that, there's like a little zombie foot, and it moves every I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. Left corner, which wiggles every now and then, which I thought was not only a cool Easter egg, which I'm sure nobody caught, but also very symbolic of the past not being all the way laid to rest, dead, which again is the whole point of this song. Zombies are not all the way laid to rest. They are still haunting you, like trauma. This got dark. It's gonna get darker. Let's get it. Some lyrical things I wanted to break down. Some of the topics addressed in this song are dark. I just said that. I know that. That's the point. Do know that in previous versions of this song, the song was darker. Like, damn. I hear you saying, but Amari, this song touches on abuse, police brutality, infidelity, and a general gambit of trauma. Yeah. To that, I say, I know what I said. There was a darker version of this song. I had to add some more metaphoric moonlight to the song later because it was initially too heavy. The flows and rhyme schemes used are intentionally sporadic and constantly changing, with each one meant to surprise you at its onset, and in totality give you a sense of unease and uncertainty on your first listen, or maybe first couple listens through the song. In the same vein, this song isn't related to any one specific incident or person. I've been asked that. It's a culmination of probably 30 different situations that have added darkness to my life, and I changed focus from one to another rather quickly at certain parts of the song. For example, in the second half of verse 1, where there are 4 lines but they talk about 3 different situations, the length I spend on any one topic and even the length of verses also aren't the same throughout, because again, the point is the feeling of instability. The verses, you're not going to know which verse is which until you look at the lyrics physically, because it all just sounds like one big verse when you listen through it, but I'll get back to that in a second. As the song states in the title, this is a freestyle, but more specifically, it's several verses of different freestyles I did over this beat sewn together to create the final version you guys hear. So at that point, it's more of a freestyle in that like secondary term of freestyle, where it's like freestyle is a rap song without choruses. It's just one long verse or like multiple verses, and less of a freestyle of just like I sat there and spit it all off the dome. A lot of it came off the dome, but it was multiple off the dome sessions. This is getting weird. There are 6 verses in this song because 6 is seen as a spooky or evil number in the Western world, and that matches the vibe of this song. Also, because having a 13-verse song sounded ridiculous. And yes, I considered it for a second, but I was like, nobody wants to hear that. So, the intro refers to this song as my therapy session at the collective funeral of my enemies. The thought process there was that I used this song to kill several people who've brought darkness to my life or the lives of people I care about. And at funerals, people typically gather around and talk about how the deceased was in life. And for me, I'm taking this opportunity to grab my cup, taking this opportunity to turn it into free therapy by airing those people out. While this song has no chorus, there are at least 9 different references in the song to the moon directly, or idioms about the moon. So thematically, it's all still tied together, but also lyrically, it still makes sense as a song titled Red Moon. One second. I have been singing a lot, so my throat is dry. Why? Because I'm already working on part 2, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, so 9 references to the moon directly, or idioms about the moon. 1. Lunar phases. These are the phases of the moon you see at night, i.e. full moon, new moon, waning moon, etc. Moonlighting, which is where you work more than one job to increase income, like my mom was working multiple jobs to help make enough money to manage everything while I was growing up. Moonlight, which is the main source of light on the darkest nights, i.e. my ambition provides moonlight for the darkness I've been through. 4. Man in the moon refers to someone who is out of touch with reality, but more on that later. 5, Apollo 13, which is the rocket ship that took the first humans to the moon. You know it. Number 6, shoot for the moon, meaning to set high goals and have ambition. 7, the Prince Rose 421 like the red moon line is a double entendre, which let's just get in here and explain that now. Double entendre, which on one hand refers to the fact that I dropped this song on April 21st, your boy's birthday, i.e. this song Red Moon came into being on the same day I came into being a person. I was also born at night, just like the moon appears at night, so there's a connection there. The second meaning is that Prince Rogers, Prince the artist, Purple Rain, that dude, died on my birthday, 421. Therefore, he rose into the sky like a red moon on 421. That means I dropped this song on the 25th anniversary of my birth and also the 7th anniversary of his death. And this line highlights both of those things, which were both pretty impactful to me, but I'll talk about Prince more later. 8, red moons are sometimes referred to as blood moons, and since blood also fits the dark horror-inspired nature of this song, I made sure to include references to blood in the lyrics. I also referred to myself as Drac, aka Dracula, in the following line for a similar reason. Also, I'm edgy and think vampires are cool, plus they match the overall vibe of the song, so there was no way I just wasn't gonna mention vampires in this song. 9, moon goes under the cow is a reference to the nursery rhyme Hey Diddle Diddle, which has a line, the cow jumps over the moon, so this is a play on words referring to that line. That line in Hey Diddle Diddle doesn't really mean anything. Like, there's a lot of debate among scholars on what it means. It's kind of just a filler line in that nursery rhyme, and in the same way this line, cow goes under the moon, that line is a filler in the section that we'll get to later, which, if you've heard the song, that's kind of it's a section. We'll put it that way. So I use that in the same way that Hey Diddle Diddle uses it, but I just flipped it some to the perspective of the moon. I know we've already been talking about lyrics, but now we're about to just go through and talk about lyrics. Grievances in the air like lunar phases line is a reference to the concept of airing grievances, which means to publicly voice your negative opinions or complaints, which is kind of what this song is. The next few lines, serving tea and take a chair, make reference to pretty common AAVE, which is nigga speak. It's African American vernacular English. It's the way that African Americans have adopted the English language and kind of made it our own. And you will recognize it because it is literally the only way that people talk on Twitter. Like, everyone speaks in AAVE on Twitter for some apparent reason. But anyway, the next lines make reference to pretty common AAVE, tea, and have a seat, respectively. Both of these are crazy common colloquial slang at this point, thanks to social media, but I will explain these for those who don't know, which means you're probably not American and or probably older than my mom. No shade either way. I'm just saying, I'm assuming everybody who's a millennial and under and living in the Western hemisphere probably knows what these mean, but this is for the people who don't, so let me be. Tea. Spilling the tea, or in this case, serving tea, all mean gossip or personal information belonging to someone else. If the gossip or news is really juicy, then people say the tea is hot, or sometimes the tea is piping hot. So what I'm saying is, I came back spoon feeding you all hot tea, aka telling you all these tragedies about someone else who just happens to be me. Have a seat or take several seats means that someone thinks you should stop and reflect on your stupid decision that you just made or the stupid thing that you just said. I take this and morph this into take a chair, which is another kind of seat, to demonstrate that the person is stupid and needs to self-reflect for thinking that I just moved on from the terrible things they did to me. Don't think you can play with me is a double entendre, given it. I'm jumping around a little bit because this is gonna be so long that I'm not going by every single line. Okay, don't think you can play with me is a double entendre, given it follows I play chess, setting up success. That's the line right before it, giving it both the meaning of you can't beat me in a metaphorical game of chess to set yourself up for success, but also having the meaning of don't think you can play me in the colloquial sense, meaning to be manipulated. So You can't beat me in chess. Like, probably can't beat me in chess in real life either. Like, I'm just saying. But you can't beat me in this metaphorical game of chess, but you also can't manipulate me. Scorched earth, no pepper ridges. That's a good line. A scorched earth strategy is a military policy involving deliberate widespread destruction of property and resources, such as housing, factories, and crops, hence the name, so that an invading enemy cannot use them. I took this concept and expanded the imagery by indicating that when I'm done burning bridges, which is the line prior, dancing in soot while burning bridges, that's a great line too. I really like the imagery there. Anyway, by indicating that when I'm done burning bridges, as mentioned in the previous line, there won't even be pepper ridges, which is a type of tree, left over. So burn everything down, essentially. Some people just want to see the world burn. There's quite a few pop culture references in the next verse, which I think is like verse 3. Yeah, verse 3. So I'll explain those for anyone who may not know what one of them means. Wade Wilson is the name of comic book character and now movie character Deadpool, who says the line "fake laughter hiding real pain" in the 2016 movie Deadpool, which by the way is one of my favorite movies ever. That's facts. Deadpool as a character is really tragic, but he still never fails to crack a joke and even make light of serious situations. I relate to Wade. Bruce Wayne is the real name. You should know this already. If you don't know this, bro. Bruce Wayne is the real name of the dude who I've been sipping on his skull for the last half an hour, of Batman, whose costume is usually, but not always, black, like my clothes, lol. And the childhood trauma part is I should have said what that line is. Fake laughter, hiding real pain, Wade Wilson, man in black with childhood trauma, Bruce Wayne. That's what I said right there. So man in black with childhood trauma, Bruce Wayne. This is the line I'm explaining here. Bruce Wayne, Batman, who costume is usually but not always black, like my clothes, lol. And the childhood trauma part is a reference to the fact that Batman is a dude who stalks the night, dressed like a bat, to strike fear into criminals because of a culmination of several childhood traumatic events he went through that shaped him into the man he is today. Connections are being made, guys. I know. And yes, several childhood traumatic events, because in some versions of his story, it's not just the murder of his parents. It's like a bunch of he had a rough childhood. Okay, so yeah, he's a billionaire who runs around in a big ass bat costume because his feelings are hurt. It'd be like that. That kind of sounds like I'm roasting him, which I am, but it's out of love. Clearly, I like the character. I use the real names of both Deadpool and Batman instead of their superhero aliases because the lines are meant to look at the pain of the man behind the mask in a more intimate way, which is the whole point of this song, instead of just the character they are portraying. Yes, this next line is awesome. Okay, so the V for Vendetta lines are some of my favorite lines I've ever written and relates to a book and movie by the same name, V for Vendetta, where the titular character, named V, wore a Guy Fawkes mask with a smile and a goatee on it, and went on a rampage seeking retribution against the institutions that had wronged him. Okay, let me read the actual line to you so you get what I'm saying, just in case you aren't looking at the lyrics, because this is a bar, and I need you to understand your boy was in his bag when he wrote this, okay? It says, a smile, I'm gonna say it slow because apparently sometimes at certain points on this project, I rapped a little too fast for people to get what I was saying. So, a smile and a goatee because my V is for vendetta. So remember that whenever you see a flipped letter. But I say flipped letter because it rhymes better. Okay, so the A flipped letter referenced in the next line refers to me, denoting that I am Amari, the letter you get when you flip a V, A flipped letter, and the first letter of my name, Amari. I just said that, essentially equating me to V, the character from V is for Vendetta, being on a righteous rampage against those who have wronged me. This line is also cool because it has two separate internal rhymes in one lyric via vendetta, letter, and goatee VC. There are a lot of lines with internal rhymes, but this one just happened to, in the same line, have two separate ones, which I thought was cool. Reconciliation, a game, but you have no lives. That's a pretty good one too. I really like this song, guys. Like, man, yes. Okay, reconciliation, a game, but you have no lives. basically stating that there is no possible path forward to reconciliation, just like there is no possible way of continuing a game when you've lost all your lives. The phrase "man in the moon," reconciliation, a game but you have no lives. You're the man in the moon if you think you can play is the next line. The phrase "man in the moon" refers to a shape resembling a human face or perceived person in the moon. The idiom is often used to refer to someone who is out of touch with reality, which I touched on earlier, or imagining things. In this case, the person is imagining that they can play the game of reconciliation with. So it's just a wax poetic way to say, like, there's no coming back from this. The next line, "You're the man in the moon if you can play this dark twisted fantasy, not beautiful, no Kanye." So that's the line I'm talking about. The next line relates my tragic experiences with this person to a dark twisted fantasy, but states that it's not beautiful, which is a play on the title of Kanye West's most famous album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But I'm not, just for the record, like some huge Kanye West fan. I just thought the line was really good, so here we are. Hence, no Kanye. I should have finished that sentence before I went off on a rant. And ties in with the last line because Kanye is close friends with an artist named Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi is often referred to as the man on the moon. See what I'm saying? Man on the moon, man in the moon? Yeah. Who dedicates a large part of his music talking about mental health and the struggles he has experienced in his life, which is exactly what I'm doing in the song. I'm really gonna need to drink for this next one. Okay. Hueco Mundo, Las Noches, Halo, and Primera Espada. These are all references to things in a manga and anime series called Bleach. If you are a weeb, you knew this already. For those of you who don't watch anime, stick with me here because this is about to get complex. Okay. Hueco Mundo is the void dimension in Bleach where souls go when they haven't crossed over into the afterlife. Because they have unfinished business with the living world or some type of unresolved stresses in their life. The souls that inhabit this in-between realm are known as hollows. So, Hueco Mundo, this is the in-between realm. Hollows are the souls that live in this in-between realm. The ruler of Hueco Mundo lived in a fortress called Las Noches, which is Spanish for the nights, which connects to the theme of this song. So, Hueco Mundo, void dimension, this between realm. Hollows, which are the souls that are in this place. Las Noches is a castle that is in this place. Okay. The ruler of Hueco Mundo lived in a fortress called Las Noches. I already said that. The Primera Espada is the epithet of a very powerful hollow from Bleach that lived in Las Noches, which is that castle. And if I say any more than that, it will be spoiler territory. But for those of you who have seen Bleach, which you should really watch Bleach, Bleach is awesome, who have seen Bleach, you may notice a certain sound effect in the beat that also ties in with the specific character who I'm talking about right now. The reason I said the last song sounded like Hueco Mundo, this void realm, is because the soundtrack that plays in the anime when characters are in Hueco Mundo, so when the setting is Hueco Mundo, is always a Spanish-inspired heavy classical guitar-based song with lots of orchestral elements. By the way, best OST in anime, fight me, I don't care. So my song I Love, which was the previous single, the second single, this is the third single, and the song that plays right before this on the EP, this first song, this the second song, has a similar vibe to the soundtrack of Hueco Mundo in that it is a Latin-inspired, heavily classical guitar, Spanish-based song with lots of orchestral elements. So that's a bar, is what I'm saying. That's a bar. That's bars. Bars. Anyway, this also connects with the later line about a hot, dark night in the desert because Hueco Mundo's landscape is literally a desert in eternal night. This one Bleach line ties all three of the singles, i.e. the first three songs on the EP, together via referencing Spanish, nighttime, unresolved, pain, and royalty, all in one little section. That's bars! Come on now! That's hard. Even if you haven't seen Bleach, just go back, just scroll back a little bit, and then just listen to what I'm saying. A lot of thought went into this, okay? Back to what I was saying. Black Beauty Cavallo. Okay, Black Beauty was the name of a very famous horse, and I am a Black Beauty. No, I'm just kidding. And caballo means horse in Spanish. I put this line in here because this whole section is about being successful or powerful in the case of the Primera Espada. Since Black Beauty is so famous, I thought it fit, plus it allowed me to add another Spanish line or word to pair with the Bleach stuff, which is all in Spanish. Okay, the Apollo line is a bar. No, I'm just playing. Let me stop before you guys actually think I'm cocky. I'm so not. I didn't know if anybody was gonna like this when I put this out, but so far people have been very complimentary, which means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Putting music out is like bearing your soul to the world. It's very uncomfortable. So appreciate the kind regards. The Apollo line is a double entendre, which I will explain after I sip this. I say I'm up in the sky like my first name Apollo is the line. On one hand, you have Apollo, the Greek god of sun and music, the Greek god of the sun and music. Also my favorite Greek god, by the way. Dude was a beast, who lived in Olympus, hence up in the sky, because Olympus was literally in the sky. It was at the top of a mountain. You got that. Okay. Which, by the way, connection, Nepal, top of a mountain here. You see what I'm doing? Okay. On the other hand, so this is the second half of the double entendre. You have Apollo, the spaceships, which I touched on earlier, which were probably named after the Greek god, for all I know, but I don't know that, so maybe Google it. I don't know. Which was the American rocket ships that we sent into space in the 1960s. The Apollo 13 is the rocket we used to land humans on the moon, relating both to the titular celestial body, the moon, but also to the aforementioned Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon. This is why I like the song. Even though like the beat is like super mid to me now, I really like these lyrics. I like lyrics that have several interpretations and several meanings, and even though I'm kind of telling you what they mean, which kind of defeats the purpose of the several meanings thing, I just don't want people to miss any of the meanings. But there are things in these songs that I'm not touching on at this moment because I still want to leave some nuance to the songs themselves. But I don't like writing lyrics that like only mean one very on the surface blatant thing. So if you see a lyric from me in a song that looks like it's very dumb, that looks like it's just very to the point and like it has no sense of nuance, it's a double entendre, like almost always. Yeah, and if it's a basic line, I will probably go back and rewrite it because I just prefer to consume music that is multifaceted and complex in that way. And so in the same vein, I try to make music that is like that. Okay, next section, a dish best served with a side of petty. We're now in verse 4 of 6. Shut up, move faster. A dish best served with a side of petty. Revenge, that's the line. This is a play on the phrase, revenge is a dish best served cold. Missed phone calls from my ex already. Red tinge. This is a reference to the fact that, at least on iPhones, I think also on Androids, but I haven't had an Android in like a decade. Not because I like have that weird iPhone supremacy thing that people do online. That's dumb. But just because like the production softwares that I use are all Apple based, and so having a phone that can connect to my computer when I'm doing like music making stuff, it just makes more sense. So that's why I have an Apple. I have no allegiance to Apple. I don't like worship Steve Jobs or like whatever. But this is a reference to the fact that at least on iPhones, when you miss a call from someone or when you send them to voicemail, which is what is being implied here, like under the surface, their calls show up as red instead of white, i.e. their call now has a red tinge to it. See what I did there? You like that? You didn't catch that. I know you didn't. Just kidding. That's not even like the most complex thing I've said in the past 5 minutes, but whatever. Next line, get laughy just like I'm taffy. The end. Yeah, this is probably going to confuse a lot of non-Americans. So Laffy Taffy is a candy created in the US in the 1970s. This line means I will be getting the last laugh. Get laffy, the end. Okay. Get the last laugh, which means to have the final victory, and it will be sweet like candy, hence Laffy Taffy. The next line. Okay, I was like actually asked about this a couple times. Genius like bugs and you looking like Daffy, I win. Okay, someone asked me, I also said that here. I'm saying the same stuff over and over again because I guess I have the same thought process every time. Okay, someone asked me about this line in particular, and I said I'd explain it here. Apparently, at some point on Discord, we were talking about IQ test, and I went on a rant where I mentioned that I had tested 141 on an IQ test, which would classify me as a genius, but that is not what this line is referring to. I don't personally put any stock into IQ test, which was like the whole point of my rant in the first place, as I see them as an incomplete measurement of this abstract thing we call intelligence. So even though IQ test would say that I'm a genius, I don't care. I think IQ test can't tell me shit because they're stupid. This line is way less braggadocious than like beating on my chest calling myself a genius, even though it literally says I'm a genius like Bugs. I'll get to it in a second. And it's simple, it's blah, 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 blah. Yeah, very genius of you, can't even talk. And is simply in reference to my perception of the Looney Tunes character, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. I honestly don't remember much about this show. It was never my thing. I know that's like, le gasp, but it is what it is. I wasn't into it. Way less braggadocious, and simply reference to my perception of the Looney Tunes characters Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. I honestly don't remember much about the show, other than the fact that Bugs always struck me as being way smarter than Daffy, hence the genius part, who conversely seemed super obnoxious. I didn't like that dude. And he was always getting outsmarted by Bugs. So, yeah. So that's what I'm referencing here, saying that I'm outsmarting my ex in this line, because they did me wrong, but I will be the one to get the last laugh. Laffy Taffy line. I'm also referring to them as obnoxious because they are. The ad-libs in this section also make sense when said together. Revenge, red tinge, the end, I win. Like when you take the whole narrative of it and keep that in mind, these ad-libs kind of tell the story on their own. Okay, I'm gonna have to take a sip for this next. Okay. There's a story in here about how I almost died at work. This is true. This actually happened. From working overtime and not getting a break. I don't work there anymore. Duh. The points I wanted to explain here were the straps on a Sketcher line. Skechers are a type of shoe. What? Hold on. Let me tell you what I'm saying for those of you who aren't looking at the lyrics right now. What do I say here? Okay, so this section that I'm about to talk about, I'm just going to read it and then we'll get back into it. On a hot, dark night in the desert on a stretcher, sirens blaring while I float like a feather. Sirens blaring while I float like a feather. Should enunciate more. Not from getting hit by Glock or Beretta, which are two kinds of guns. From working with no brakes, straps on a Sketcher, which is what I'm about to explain. While the boss laughing like, how was the weather? Docs wonder if I'm going to go to the nether. That's not what I say. I butchered the words. Docs wonder if I'm gonna go to the nether. Mama praying, just trying to keep it two. And then the line continues to be together, but I cut it off to jump into the next thing. Again, there's a lot of instability in the song. But in the lyrics, if you look up the lyrics on Genius or in the description of the YouTube video, you will see that I actually wrote out in parentheses together for people who didn't catch it. But I felt like the rhyme scheme is there enough that you should get what I was going to say. But if you didn't, there you go. That last word is together. Mama praying, just trying to keep it together. Okay, so points I wanted to get here was straps on a Sketcher. Skechers are a type of shoe, and their straps work the entire time you wear them, i.e. with no brakes, because they are what keep the shoe fastened to your foot. I was comparing myself in that moment to those straps, keeping everything fastened together with no brakes. The other point that I wanted to touch on was nether, which means under and is in reference to the nether world, which is the underworld dimension for the dead in many religions. So the point was that I almost died. Okay, yeah. The poem track line relates to the titles of the songs, which I explained already. It's become a poem, as mentioned before. Yeah, the next line is about police brutality and equates me going 5-0. Oh, I'm shaking stuff. Going 5-0, i.e. having no losses, 5 wins, 0 losses, 5-0. No losses on the project to cops, colloquially known as 5-0, at least here in the US. I don't know what you guys refer to them as. I know in other countries, people have different names for cops, but here, one of the names that we call cops is 5-0. So going 5-0 on a project. All of my songs were wins. None of my songs were losses. 5-0. Connecting it with cops. 5-0. Okay. Hopefully you got what I was saying there. I.e. having no losses on the project. 2 cops, colloquially known as 5-0, never seeming to miss a shot when they choose to shoot their guns during these aforementioned police brutality moments. This line obviously relates to the section right before it, which I will not get into right now because that's dramatic as hell. But also notice that all of this is said in verse 5, again connecting to the recurring 5 motif. So 5-0, 5-0, verse 5. Got it? Okay. One thing you may or may not have noticed is that gunshots are used as a percussive element during this part of the song, further tying into the topic at hand. So I went in and I switched out the snare that happens there and used gunshots. And also this part of the song is one of those Twilight moments where you have like both, not Twilight the movie, but Twilight as in time of day. We have both the light and dark elements happening at the same time, because this part of the song I'm talking about light and dark stuff. It's mostly dark stuff, but you got the point. This a graveyard day under the moonlight. Here lies, etc., etc. I say this twice, and so that's why I just put etc., etc., because it's different both times. These lines are in reference to the common epitaph, I think that's how you pronounce that word, that appears on gravestones, at least here in the US, which goes, here lies, and then insert the person's name. The first one says that the people who are metaphorically buried at this graveyard, which is this song, are people who tried to wrong me multiple times. So basically, like, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, well, you're dead because you're not gonna fool me twice. That's how it works. And the second line states that also buried in this graveyard, again, metaphoric, I didn't kill anyone, wink, in this graveyard are the things I should have said instead of being nice, which probably won't make sense to a lot of people, but I don't know. It's a thing I do. It sucks. And in turn, allowing people to continually abuse and hurt me. Shit is trash. These lines also work as a tie-in with the intro, which also talks about graveyards. And it also ties in with the visualizer, which I said earlier, but I wanted to remind you of because that's awesome. Me high-fiving myself. Oh, I like this section too. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers, means that the victims tend to remember the traumatic situation much longer and much more clearly than those who caused said traumatic situation. The next line of "Don't matter how much you chop me, no timber." Okay, hold on. I'm gonna read this section out again because this explanation gets kind of complex. There's like a few double entendres in here. So the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. Don't matter how much you chop me, no timber. I'm just getting colder. The 1st of December. Those scars to the grave, like my first name is Simba. But again, I say December instead of December. Just trying to rhyme and stuff. Okay, back to what I was saying. The next line of "Don't matter how much you chop me, no timber" is a double entendre. 1, timber meaning the planks of wood you use in construction, which are made of trees. And 2, after a tree has been chopped down, the lumberjack will yell out "timber" to alert everyone that the tree is falling so they don't get crushed by it. They should get crushed, but whatever. This line essentially is saying no matter how many times you try to cut me down, you'll never be able to break me into pieces, i.e. timber, nor will you ever be able to announce to everyone that you were able to cut me down in the first place, i.e. timber. Get it? It also connects to the bit right before this where I say the pain you caused me is carved on my bones. That's strong imagery, because carving is something that's typically done with wood once it's removed from trees. And in the event you tried to chop a tree down but failed, which is what I'm talking about here, those chops would still be carved into the tree itself. Make sense? Okay. Just giving you a second to like process what I just said right there. The next line, I'm just getting colder the 1st of December, is in reference to the fact that in the northern hemisphere, the first month of winter is December. So in theory, the first day of winter is December 1st. I say in theory because it's not always exact, but whatever. Me saying I'm just getting colder is another double entendre. On one hand, you have the idea that people tend to become bitter, i.e. colder, the more trauma they have endured, aka the more you chop at them. But on the other hand, it's me essentially saying I'm just getting better, like colder, the colloquial form of colder. I wanted to include a reference to winter because that is when many people cut down trees to turn them into firewood, which relates to the first 2 lines of this section. I like this section a lot. The next line, those scars to the grave like my first name is Simba, is a play on words and a Lion King reference. Taking your scars to the grave is a phrase meaning that you'll have the remnants of your metaphorical battle wounds, in this case, the lumberjack trying to chop me down, until the day you die. So you're taking those scars of the battle with you till your death. I connected this with the Lion King by comparing myself to Simba, someone who not only killed someone named Scar, i.e. took him to the grave, but also will live with the scars of his trauma, which was losing his father, forever. The next line, that's not the next line, but it's, a few lines down. Planning empires like the architect of Rome line is yet another connection to my song Prince via a reference to the Roman Empire. Because here I talk about the metaphorical designer of Rome, and there I talk about building Colosseums, which was one of the most famous pieces of Rome's imperial architecture. I really like this whole song. I like this whole song. I think lyrically this song is like kicking the butt of all the other songs, which is why I'm talking about it so much. The next section I talk about this section. This is verse 6. The next section I talk about major label rappers and compare their situation with their labels to a BDSM relationship. This one section right here, by the way, is the entire reason my entire project is explicit. I don't know if you guys noticed, I don't cuss anywhere on the project at all. And none of the songs are explicit except this song because of this section. And when you have one song that is explicit on an album, then the entire album becomes explicit, which then like demarcates the rest of the songs into being explicit. So if you look at the single versions of the other songs, they aren't labeled explicit because they're not. But if you look at the versions of the songs that are on the project, they are labeled explicit, even though they're the exact same songs, because they're on a project with another song that is explicit, which makes the entire project and all the songs on the project explicit. But anyway, back to BDSM. Let's go. I start this section off by saying they only rap about whips and chains, which is slang for cars and chain link necklaces, respectively. Whips, cars, chains, necklaces. But in the literal forms of the words, they are objects used in slavery and BDSM, respectively, and then say that they, rappers, sign with record labels to be dressed in leather, because labels often control what artists wear. A lot of people don't know that, but labels often control what artists wear, and since alternative fashion is very trendy right now, thanks to TikTok mostly, many are being made to wear alternative clothing, which oftentimes is comprised of leather, hence, sign dressed in leather. Okay. And made to bow, i.e. they're told what to do, which is why they're having their clothes picked out like they're 12 anyway. 12, I don't know, 5? What age do people stop getting their clothes picked out? I don't know. I've always been I was picking my clothes out like literally at 1. Like I was an infant, a toddler, telling people, no, I'm gonna wear this. I don't want to wear that. I'm wearing these light up Batman shoes or something. I wanted to explain the Prince line because it's a bar. No, because in that part I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the Prince Rogers, the artist, who I've already mentioned several times and will continue to mention because there's more references to him, who was a big advocate for artists' rights and IP ownership. IP is intellectual property. This connects to the line about slavery, as Prince once famously wore slave written across his face because of the way his label was treating him. He felt like they were treating him like a slave. Major label deals are also often referred to as selling your soul to the devil. Everybody goes Illuminati and devil worship. No, it's just a bunch of really crappy label owners and artists using different creative metaphors to express that they're being treated like dirt. They're also often referred to as modern day slavery. I don't like that though. I literally said that in the next line. I don't really like when people compare signing a crappy contract to slavery, even though I love Prince, because slaves didn't choose to sign themselves into slavery. Like, it's kind of, you know, it's a little different. Which is why I compare it to BDSM instead, because you signed up for that submission. But I digress. Point here, because I don't know if you guys caught it, because there's a lot going on here, is that I shifted the metaphor from selling your soul to the devil and from slavery into BDSM, which is like a more consensual form of being dominated, because you still have to, unless someone held a gun to your head, which is possible because some record labels are owned by mobsters, which is also a little known fact, then it was a consensual situation. But you're still being told what to do. You're still being controlled. It's just the initial phase of it is different. This section also connects to the lines in verse 2 of my song Prince, which also references Prince Rogers, Prince the artist, who not only has the same name meaning as me, but is also an inspiration of mine, which is why I keep referencing him in my songs. We're almost done, I promise. We're almost done with this song. We're not almost done with the project. The last line of verse 6 has 5 internal rhymes: wow, how, vows, chow, and chow. I think that's cool. It extends further to 7 internal rhymes if you count the line before, which include cow and bow. For those of you not well versed in AAVE, chow, which is the first chow, means child, like kid, but in a patronizing way. Ciao, which is the second ciao, on the other hand, is an Italian word that means hello, but it also means goodbye, i.e. it's me signing off, as it's the last thing I say in the verses of the song. Why in the song in a random Italian word? Well, because it rhymes. True. But also because Rome is in modern day Italy, and I just referenced Italy and Rome in the section prior. And I also referenced it in Prince, which I just talked about in the section prior. So, through line there. This major label rapper section was important for me to include because I wanted to not only remind people that sometimes the artists that they think have no lyrical depth or are just straight up stupid aren't, but they only release music like that because that's what their labels allow them to release. Like, you make the music that the label tells you to make, or you get shelved indefinitely and we never hear from you again. You know, it's pros, cons. And also because I wanted to explain why I, as an artist, am not talking about, like, these stupid topics. I want to explain why I, as an artist, am not spending all my time talking about designer this and luxury that, because I don't have to. No one controls my content but me. Literally, no one controls anything about my music but me. Everything is me, so if you don't like it, then, well, I'm the only person you can blame. But if you like it, tell your boy, because I had my hands in every aspect of the project. So if you like something about it, I would love to know, because my body runs on the gratification of others. I don't know, it's weird. So I can touch on whatever I want in my songs, including crazy moments that happen to me in my life, which is why you will probably never hear me talk about a designer brand. I was about to say one, but I'm not gonna give y'all that publicity just in case I ever get famous enough for people to come back and watch this and it have more than like 2 views. But yeah, I don't do that. So unless you are like paying me and a lot of money at that, I'm not mentioning your stupid brand in my song. So the last 4 lines that act as the outro just might be my favorite lines that I've ever written. Not only does it reference the general, let me read it for you so you get what I'm saying. Slasher theme melodies to butcher all my enemies, deadly on any day that ends in Y. Now you know the tragedies I Shakespeare into histories. Run credits, it's the end of the story time. Now let me tell you why that line is hard. Okay, so not only does it reference the general theme behind the song and music, but it compares my songs to Shakespearean plays and movies. Slasher theme movie, you know. Okay, I just talked about that. and the idea of running credits. That also connects to movies. The specific tragedies to histories line is a triple entendre, so buckle up. 1. On the most basic level, it's saying these tragedies happened in the past, aka my history. 2. On the other hand, it's saying I am writing, a la Shakespeare, the most famous writer ever, these tragic moments down to become the history that will be my music catalog. 3. As anyone who has studied Shakespearean works knows, which I got a bunch of nerd viewers, so I'm assuming a lot of y'all like immediately went here, but if you haven't studied Shakespearean works in school because you didn't go to an art school like your boy, then I don't even know, do people study Shakespearean works in like normal schools? Probably, but whatever. I'm going to explain this third layer too. As anyone who has studied Shakespearean works knows, his plays typically fall into one of 3 genres. Comedies, meant to make the audience laugh, tragedies, based on the suffering of the main character, and histories, stories that recount the lives of previous kings. As a result, this line is an ode to me tying both of those 2 last genres, histories and tragedies, of storytelling into one song. Okay, also there's this little tidbit about me being deadly on any day that ends in Y, because, well, in English, all of the days end in Y. That's the point. Even the cadence of the outro section is meant to be sing-songy, like more sing-songy than the rest of the song, referencing 2 things. 1, how there's often small children singing in scary movies, adding this like creepy element to the vibe of the song and also the movies. And 2, connecting this section that has the line, "It's the end of story time," to a lullaby type delivery. So yeah, okay, that's Red Moon. This has been super long. How long have we gone? Oh my Jesus. So I will probably have to break this up into like a 3-part video. Whatever. Next song for those of you who are still interested in watching me talk about my music. The next part will probably be the shortest part. Hopefully. Okay, see you guys there.